Hi there, welcome back to On the Flip Side. My name is Adam Shawak, your host, and today we are going to be checking out this new album from The World is a Beautiful Place and I Am No Longer Afraid to Die, called Illusory Walls. It's been a good few years since I've kept up with The World is a Beautiful Place, mostly due to branching away into other genres and losing a bit of interest in indie rock for a while, but I've occasionally come back around to listen to some of their material as it does a great job of holding emotional weight and depth without becoming too overly dramatic to listen to. So let's get into the meat of this album. The first track on the album is Afraid to Die, a strong opening track that leans strongly into post-rock with a kind of Midwest emo vocal delivery. Then the sound of the track kind of explodes into this huge sweeping alternative rock backing track that fills the mix and brims with character and charm. The lyrics on this track focus on the banality of living within your comfort zone, kind of like how you can be as cozy as possible and live a full life and you can work really hard and be satisfied, but you'll still have kind of that lingering fear of death that we all kind of share. The song ends off with a verse about how we've kind of lost our ability to help ourselves, and in the process, we've lost our ability to help others. So it seems like we've become people who can only really cry out for help, but cannot be helped, despite the fact that we probably could unlearn this helplessness. The next track is Queen Sophie for President. This track, sound-wise, hits a strong post-punk beat with some really neat synth work that kind of covers up the vocals a bit, which is an interesting choice, but I do think it works pretty well. The only thing is that it kind of makes it hard to discern the lyrics, which again are very good. This song hits a pretty strong vein of pessimism and some strong on-the-nose criticisms of the lack of agency that some people seemingly prefer when it comes to personal choice. How you can suddenly benefit from being a victim, but you don't want to have that agency to choose because then, if things do go wrong, the only blame that can fall on you. In the end, though, the track isn't just great because of its lyrics, so it's not really a huge deal. The song has some really great hooks and flows nicely and seems to lean a bit into this post-punk influenced sound blended with more like modern subgenres like psych rock and shoegaze. The whole track oozes personality and it's a great listen. Up next is Invading the World of the Guilty as a Spirit of Vengeance. This one has a really neat multi-layered vocal track that makes this a pretty neat listen. I love the chunky bass that seems to have just a hint of overdrive on it, and the guitar work is just excellent. The lyrics get a little bit more cryptic here, but it's mostly just because of the amount of lines here in the verses. It's heavily leaning into poetry at this point, but it's really, really well done poetry. This song does seem riddled with anger and spite in its lyrics, or maybe it's kind of a deep resentment. Either way, it's top notch. Also, the ending segment of this track absolutely crushes. This song is definitely a favorite for me. The next track is Blank Drone, a short interlude track that has a great little poem about the struggle of low-income life between two people who can't have more than like $100 between them. There's a lot of heavy themes on this album of resentment towards the world, towards inequity, and a general criticism of injustice that seems to be everywhere. Up next is We Saw Birds Through the Hole in the Ceiling. This song mellows out a lot. The vocal deliveries are kind of wispy and the guitar work is dreamy and the whole song just kind of floats along. There's some great use of reverb that makes the whole track hit that patch of surrealism that in a genre like psych rock would be overdone, but here in this little alt-rock emo blend, this style is incredibly refreshing. The effects-heavy breakdown at the end of the track is fantastic as well, with some really well-utilized wet effects over the top of some nice crunchy dry guitar effects. The whole album really is produced excellently. This song is a great example of that. The next song is Died in the Prison of the Holy Office. This song starts with a fairly ominous drum beat and wispy soundscape. The vocals are under a layer of fairly watery production that reminds me a lot of the newer Nine Inch Nails style of vocal production. This kind of blends a bit with their second singer, who they layer over some of the lines a bit. The drums grow in intensity a bit, and the synth, the piano work takes a step forward to dominate the mix. The whole song kind of slowly walks uphill tension-wise for a nice release of tension for the song's chorus, where the whole thing kind of flips and the vocals open up and the instruments kind of get washed back a bit, except for the guitar, which opens up and has this huge bright sound that they hit with some kind of phase effects. It's really cool. The track cuts back down to a bass guitar and drum heavy segment that leads into what I'd call the outro, or at least the ending segment of the track, which gets a little bit out of hand, but it's not really bad. It just kind of gets overwhelming on the production end, and it's hard to know exactly what to listen for or where to focus in on, but despite that, it does work really well. The next track is Your Brain is Rubbermaid. This song it's kind of a fade out of the last track with these long sweeping notes that sound like they're being run through some kind of sustain patch mixed with like a reverb or something. There's a kind of audible decay in the notes that fades into this very abrupt proper song start with these really beautiful string sections that dominate the track with some heavy guitar in the back. The vocals are excellently delivered, and all in all, the whole package that the World is a Beautiful Place have put together here is just brilliant. Up next is Blank Worker, another short interlude track that, like the first Blank track, is more poetry with musical accompaniment, though this song is a bit more complex than that track, but not by much, though the song is a little bit more heartfelt. Next track is Trouble. This song doesn't really take any time to build any tension or really try anything crazy, which helps to kind of vary the track listing a bit, especially because this is just a solid song and straightforward track. While it's not really a favorite for me, I do think it is a really decent track. I do think it could have either been swapped around in the track listing a bit or maybe cut, but it's not like it's a bad song or anything. It just seems that, like, towards the end of this album, you have a pretty dense track listing. This song doesn't necessarily need to be anywhere on the album in particular. Like, it could stay or go, but overall it's a solid track. The second to last track is Infinite Josh, a hefty track at 15.5 minutes long. Seems to be a bit of a slow burn with some really heavy lyrics that seem to be longing for the memories of days long past. It's a song about nostalgia and the need to reach out for those days where things had seemed simpler, that need to kind of return home. This one really hits every kind of depression button, and despite the fact that it seems to be an incredibly sad song, I am absolutely stoked to listen to the rich and raw emotion that they've managed to jam into this song. I really appreciate that they give this song time to build so you can kind of just sit with it and let it confront you. It's not a comforting song at all, even with that gentle delivery. This is a hard-hitting and crushing track. I also love that there's a big theme of acceptance in the lyrics as well, with this meditative chant of at least it's life, at least for a while. Like, you're allowed to enjoy yourself, and at least, while you're here, despite the fact that this whole adventure is limited, that at least there's opportunity here. There's moments for grief, and there's moments for joy, but these things will always be beneficial to your soul because they are things that imbue the spirit with meaning. This sort of outward push and reciprocated push back at the edge of your spirit will always be met, because if apathy were to grip you and not let go, then the whole thing would seemingly be for nothing. So there is that delicate balance that I think they're really celebrating here, and I absolutely love what they've done with this song. The final track on the album is another one of these mammoth tracks called Fewer Afraid. This track hits a nearly 20-minute runtime and delivers a strong example of post-rock, almost like a Swans track, with lots of ambient soundscape work done for this intro with dense poetry echoed into the void of the background. This one, like the last track, is emotionally overflowing with what seems in this case like concentrated melancholy. What The World Is a Beautiful Place has done is they have managed to write and create real magic. This song is so genuinely stunning, it's hard to believe just how good it is. Just listening to it seems like, to make me wonder how anyone could inject this level of emotional depth into their writing. This song is a dance between souls. Everything has its moment and its response. This passing call and response in the writing is just fantastic. The way the tracks all evolve with one another and head from verse to verse, beat to beat. Everything hangs off of the final notes or words of the previous segment, and I don't know if I have a word to sum up this song, but brilliant would be an understatement. So far as Illusory Walls goes, this whole album caught me off guard. I did anticipate it being pretty good, but this is in fact not just pretty good, this is one of the best albums of the year, if not the past couple of years. I think with COVID kind of compiling delays in music releases and giving artists time to be off the road, that there's now a spike in quality of many of the albums that we're going to be getting over the coming months and next year or so. This seems like an early indicator that music as a whole is going to be getting very interesting for a good while. I think I have been foolish, and I never really should have stopped listening to this band. Illusory Walls gets a solid 9 from me. Thank you all so much for watching. I really appreciate the support from everyone. If you enjoyed this video, please consider subscribing and liking the video. Tell me what you thought of it in the comments, and also please check out my Instagram and check out my Reverb store. I've got links to those in the description. And thank you all so much again. I really appreciate everything, and we'll see you on the flip side.